to be in a place to have to be able to negotiate with terrorists? Are they the same? Are they also terrorist group? Do they work together? This is worrisome. How Miyetti Allah is supposed to be an organization of just people. I mean, it's not supposed to have any security, intelligence, training. It's not supposed to know terrorist group. It's not supposed to one way or the other. So how did we get to a place where Miyetti Allah is the one that is now helping our government negotiate with terrorists? What happened to all the security all the security agencies that we have in Nigeria? They're just there. Their focus is to go after NSAS protesters and kill protesters, while the terrorists are there, and it is only some group, some organization, tribal organization, that is the one that negotiates with terrorists. I find that very, very worrisome, and I think it should worry every Nigerian. And we need to question, how come the Miyetti Allah has not so much to be able to negotiate with terrorists? Are they also a terrorist arm?
I completely agree that these are very, very important questions that must be asked, and we shouldn't let these things happen and just go by without us, Nigerians bringing up these questions, because these are very vital pieces of information here and there that should, be a part of every single conversation. Asha Yusuf, thank you so much for your time. And of course, looking forward to speaking with you again. Thanks for sharing with us this morning.
Thank you so much.
Have a lovely day.
We missed, there's a part of The Guardian this morning that showed people living with disabilities beating up an overzealous security guard in Abuja there. No, you didn't get to mention that.
Oh, God, I
probably
sort of
missed
it.
It was
yes.
pretty interesting
We would have, maybe subsequently we'll still have a conversation on it. It's condemnable as always. It's quite unfortunate that we still have scenarios where people who are unable to defend themselves become victims of those who are able to intimidate them. Don't intimidate people with the powers that you have. It's not fair.
I feel, and and this is in continuation of when she was talking about, when you brought up the story of mob action. I'm not sure what state that was. I feel like we live in a pretty violent society, and so these things are then a part of who we are. A lot of people would argue that it's because of a failure of the police and the criminal justice system. That's why nobody rushes to the police when crimes are committed. They immediately, of course, a mob action happens almost immediately. Jungle justice happens. But I also feel like, aside that, there's so much violence around us, and so these things happen as a part of who we are. A couple of days ago, I was seeing a video on social media.
It's not a part of, it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be,
a part
obviously.
of who we are, because there is no justification for taking another's life.
Absolutely not.
Everyone, no matter how guilty, deserves the chance to be proven guilty or innocent.
Yes.
That process must be followed, and that's what makes us a sane society.
Absolutely. A few days ago, I saw a video of a man who got into a scuffle in traffic in Lagos here with a bus driver. He gets very violent with the bus driver, but that's not the part that would shock you. 30 seconds into punching and beating this driver up, he goes to his car, opens up the boot, and then comes back and is asking the driver to get into his boot. And this is a fellow Nigerian like you. This is a man like you. So
strange things that happen in this country
insane.
That we can't even begin to explain. We'll go on a short right now, and when we come back, we will be talking about the International Migrants Day. The focus was the situation in Nigeria, and of course we have a capable hand to help us make sense of it and understand the need to have this conversation about immigration and the routes that some people choose to take. Stay with us.
Keep watching.
Plus events.
Plus event. Plus event. Plus TV Africa. Missed out? Don't be left out as we bring to your screen your favorite social diary events on Plus Events, bringing you fun, information, and of course, entertainment.
everyone, and welcome to the latest event show on the planet.
Stay glued to Plus TV Africa every Saturday and Sunday, 4:30 p.m. West African time.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges. The growing youth population with little engagement, that is a ticking time bomb. We are a blessed people with diverse culture and highly cerebral minds who have a lot to say. And yes, we are talking. It is important we drive the right conversation that informs, inspires, influences thoughts and action. If we say there's beauty in our diversity, then let us embrace our diverse culture. We must continue to courageously be the voice of transformation, as we are the hope for the future. Yesterday's conversations shape today. What are you saying to shape your tomorrow? We know you have a lot to say, and we are here to hear you.
In 2019, over 200 million people migrated from where that is not their home to other countries and made their lives there. We know that people move for various reasons, either for economic reasons or because they are compelled due to concerns about security. Today is International Migrants Day, and to talk about the significance of the day and the reality in Nigeria, we have joining us the Public Information Officer of IOM, and that's George Galindo. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Just to quickly clear, that's the International Organization for Migration.
Yes.
All right.
I'm going to, start with, of course, we're living in peculiar times, and that is, with a pandemic that has almost canceled the whole of 2020. Let's start with talking about how that may have affected migrants and migration and the work of the IOM in the last 1 year.
Thank you very much. Well, I think that to say that migration has been disrupted by COVID-19 would be an understatement. We have to see just the conditions of people on the move, many of them who became stranded because of the border closures, because of the restrictions to air travel. I think that it's important to highlight that it is those people, majority of irregular migrants, who have borne the brunt of the pandemic and its effects on mobility. Those people that were not able to return home safety, that found themselves oftentimes in arbitrary detention for extended periods of time, in unsanitary conditions, with very poor access to basic services. And this is just one aspect of the impacts of COVID-19. We've also seen, of course, the impact that it has had on the economies and livelihoods of people, including migrants and including their communities of origin. And the fact that we are expecting a dramatic drop in the number of remittances, including to countries such as Nigeria, this will have an impact on the very people who have chosen to migrate in search for better economic opportunities.
All right. Let's look at a comment from the UN. They are saying that the challenges and difficulties of international migration requires global cooperation among leaders. My question would be, how can world leaders help in improving the situation of migrants, and what's the connection with that concern with the theme for this year, which is reimagining or reimagine human mobility?
Yeah, so I mean, the pressing challenges I think, gives us an opportunity, a golden opportunity to rethink migration policy. And I think that states have to really work together to achieve common goals. And one of the tools to do that is via the Global Compact for Migration, which is this UN international agreement among states, the first of its kind and the largest of its kind, which is an effective tool for countries to sit at the table and discuss how best to address the challenges to human mobility, including those that have been posed by COVID-19. And it's very important to achieve these goals without compromising the human rights of people and the state's sovereignty. We're happy to see that Nigeria is one of the countries that are actively engaged in this discussion in the Global Compact for Migration. And every year, International Migrants Day is also an opportunity to think, to discuss migration policy. Every year, the government of Nigeria, and we work very closely with them in this respect, organizes the National Migration Dialogue, again, to discuss migration policy, to see how we can all reap the benefits of migration, and of course, at the center remain migrants themselves.
All right, good thing you just mentioned, benefits of migration. A lot of people, would very likely ignore the fact that there are benefits. But I want to ask, with your years, with the IOM, is the world becoming in any way more unstable from 2020? Have we seen a world that makes it less, gives people less reasons to migrate? Maybe in search of greener pastures, maybe also because of security concerns, like Felicity mentioned earlier. What is your assessment of the world that we live in today? And that includes Nigeria. How, much better or worse is it getting?
Well, I would say, first of all, that certainly COVID-19 in a way has exacerbated the drivers of migration, because again, a lot of people's economies have been impacted by the pandemic, by the movement restrictions, and this will prompt people to seek alternatives to migrate. And the more desperate that people are to move, the more likely that they are to fall prey to human trafficking, to unscrupulous smugglers who, sell people this false promise of greener pastures abroad. So we see that the current, factors in place after so many months of this pandemic might actually increase migration, and particularly irregular migration in the long term. And again, at the same time, it's an opportunity to look at the conditions of migrants in their countries of destination. And another thing is that we need to...
Go ahead, finish your
we need to highlight that oftentimes migrants have found themselves on the front lines of this COVID response. They are the health workers in various countries. They are the migrant workers who have kept economies in Europe afloat, for instance, because they are doing a lot of the work that is critical to sustain those countries. So, it's an opportunity again to showcase that.
I was going to come to the reality of the Nigerian returnees that the IOM has facilitated here. But you mentioned the EU, and the EU have put Nigeria as one of the priority countries in Africa in its efforts to reduce the flow of immigrants and asylum seekers. Can you tell us a little more about this? Is Nigeria truly benefiting from that funding if we are one of their priorities?
Well, for the last 3+ years, IOM has been implementing, together with the Nigerian government and local actors as well, the EU IOM Joint Initiative for Migrant Protection and Reintegration. Nigeria is certainly one of the participating countries, it's not the only one. But I think that the word protection here is the main objective of the program continues to be bring people to safety out of the tension in Libya, away from the risky waters of the Mediterranean. And what is concerning right now is that the program is coming to an end, and the projection is clear. Thousands of migrants from West and Central Africa are at risk as this critical funding for humanitarian interventions is coming to an end. So IOM is now appealing for additional support to continue providing this urgent protection, this critical assistance to vulnerable migrants from the region, again, including Nigeria. Because the end of this life-saving program and the funding shortfall raises concerns about what the fate of those people are. There are still Nigerians stuck in Libya. There are still Nigerians attempting these perilous journeys. So we have to continue providing the assistance. And I think it's not a single-sided initiative. We work together with the Nigerian government, with the local authorities, with community leaders in the areas where those migrants come from, and we continue working to empower those communities, to build the capacities of the states, of the immigration officials, of the people working to address issues such as human trafficking. Since the launch of this program, at least 77,000 West and Central African nationals have been assisted with voluntary return. Majority of them have also received reintegration assistance, including economic support, counseling, mental health, etc. So we have to underscore that this is a holistic approach that is unfortunately coming to an end. So we need to advocate for support for the future.
All right. I guess we'll just throw one more in the time that we have left. I want to talk about the peculiar situation in Edo State. We know that most of the data is from there. What is the current reality? How has the pandemic affected those, that you hear are seeking to leave the country?
Well, those that have stayed in Nigeria during this period, as I mentioned, the impact of the economy might prove to be a factor in the future for further migration and regular migration, as well as the risk of being lured by traffickers. We have seen, of course, border closures. We have seen stricter controls for people to move. But what this causes is only for people to seek other more obscure and more dangerous routes. People will continue moving, and this is something that we also need to stress on today's International Migrants Day. People move, it's in our nature, it's part of who we are. I am myself a migrant living in Nigeria, and people in communities where there might not be the job opportunities that they deserved, or where they are surrounded by this by information of you can make it.
I was actually hoping to get some specifics on the situation in Edo State. If you can say something particularly about Edo State, maybe in 20 seconds because we're out of time.
Well, Edo State continues to be the main place of origin of Nigerian migrants. And in Edo, again, we might have seen a temporary drop in the number of people moving. We have seen a temporary drop in also the people coming back because of the situation in those countries where they find themselves in right now. But again, the reality is that in those particular communities, a lot of people are still being lured by misinformation to migrate.
All right. Can you also? I know you spoke earlier about still seeking extra funding and financial support, as this program ends. But I, in the shortest possible time, can you share with us, in what ways or what levels of success, that the IOM has recorded in Nigeria in the last year? What things can we celebrate?
Well, we can celebrate the fact that, it's certainly a work in progress, and we don't like tooting our own horn. And again, we work together with the local authorities to achieve the objectives of this project. But we can say that over 8,000 Nigerians coming back home have been able to receive reintegration assistance to set up their own businesses, and at the same time being able to even employ and provide job opportunities to members of their community. We don't only look at providing support for the individual migrants coming back. It's about being able to empower the community at large through different projects.
All right.
I would say that it's not only a success. There are challenges, of course, but we hope that we will continue working together with the government to achieve these goals.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much. Your name, is it pronounced Jorge or?
That's it.
Jorge. Okay. Jorge Galindo. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Have a good day.
You too.
I was trying to be sure. Jorge.
Yeah, I just like, when you see Jay sometimes, you just go ahead and say George, but that clarification was necessary. But thank you very much, Mr. Galindo, for your time with us on The Breakfast. We're going on a short break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about what happened today in history in 1865 and as close as 2018. Stay with us.
This Medan has been directed to empower 1,000 persons with disabilities in each state in the next 12 months.
When I start hearing the shoot of gun,
Whatever I've done.
Every public policy has winners and losers, and some will not be very happy with you, while others, usually the silent majority, will be quite happy.
Every day on The Breakfast, we always like to share with you certain big or maybe small events that happened in history as far back as the 18th, 16th, 17th century, and as recent as maybe even last year. And of course, we're not going to be doing any different this morning.
Yes, indeed. Well, we're looking at what happened today. Political shenanigans continue, even as far back as the 1800s. You get to know why I said that in a bit. Now, on this day in 1865, by proclamation of the U.S. Secretary of State, the 13th Amendment to the Constitution outlawing slavery officially entered into force, having been ratified by the requisite states on December 6. And this ensures that neither slavery nor involuntary servitude shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. That's on this day. Now let's talk about the picture of that man you're looking at on the screen, Abraham Lincoln. The political shenanigans I mentioned has to do with the fact that when he went ahead to do the Emancipation Proclamation way back, I think in 1863, it was not because of the goodness of his heart, or because he really at that point wanted to abolish slavery. There were so many political issues around it. However, he knew that if he did do something, he will get some favor. Before the American Civil War, Lincoln and other leaders of the anti-slavery Republican Party sought not to abolish slavery but merely to stop its extension into new territories and states in the American West. Even when his hands was forced by the Civil War, all he did was like I mentioned, the Emancipation Proclamation of 1863. Calling on the Union Army to liberate all enslaved people in the states still in rebellion as an act of justice warranted by the Constitution upon military necessity. I hope those words are sticking out for you. Well, but after the war, he knew that, I mean, that will not keep the changes that has been accepted. So he pushed for the change in the American Constitution that put it in law that neither slavery nor involuntary servitude shall exist anywhere in the United States. The Republican Party introduced it in the 18th Amendment into Congress, and in April of 1864, the necessary 2/3 of the overwhelmingly Republican Senate passed the amendment. The rest, as they say, is history, and we're talking about it right now. So abolition of slave trade in the United States became official today in 1865.
Yes, if you also read a little, backward, you also find out, it had been going on by the Portuguese, as early as 1619. Eventually then spread to the United States after a Portuguese ship was seized, and they found Africans, they call them Negroes, on the ship, about 20 plus Negroes, and then it now became a thing in the United States, from there.
It's an exhausting but, interesting read if you have all the time.
There's so much of it. There's also, and it's a part of this whole conversation that a lot of people don't get to speak of. They're not comfortable speaking about it, and that is the role that Africans themselves played with regards to slavery. The Portuguese, the Americans, they didn't just come here and capture people and throw them,
of course, the chiefs and the heads people.
There's a particular name, Nwaubani, I think it's Nwaubani, a man who was very popular. Then it still has, of course, a lot of people, in his lineage that are alive today, that was one of the biggest slave traders from the southeast in Nigeria. If you also read through the major places where slavery happened, Senegal.
The conversation around slavery is not confined to one part of Africa. Every part of Africa and many parts of the world have experienced it. The thing at that point, that's the thing about the shifting morality as we go. At that point, there were slaves, even in Africa. You had traditional rulers who had slaves to themselves. So they selling those slaves was like almost a normal thing for them. You see how we've evolved to see that servitude is indeed a crime against humanity.
And this in Nigeria then, according to history, they used to capture people from the neighboring villages. And some of those people were sold into slavery. There was also the part where they sell off a family member that they weren't pleased with.
You see some of that was recapped in Things Fall Apart.
Yes, so yes, there are people in Africa who played a major role. Their names are rarely ever mentioned, but they played a major role in the whole transatlantic slave trade. But there's no time.
So much to talk about, but no time.
Let's move from 1865 to 2018. When, of course, a very, very sad day in Nigeria's history, the killing and assassination of Air Chief Marshal Alex Sabundu Bade. He was the 18th Chief of Air Staff of Nigeria and, of course, the 15th Chief of Defense Staff between 2014 and 2015. He was killed on this day along the Abuja-Kefi Road and, of course, was a 4-star general. So much controversy over his death. There were arrests made months and months later. Till today, nobody has been found guilty of his murder. Of course, there was also different narratives, as to why he was killed or how he died. Some of the people that were arrested claimed that, they heard that he was going to buy land, he was going to pay for a farm, and they
was actually on his way from his farm when he was attacked.
They wanted to get the money from him, and so that's why he was killed. His family said they didn't believe all those testimonies. The DSS, the Nigerian police, of course, continue to make arrests here and there, but till date, still no solid answer to his murder. And it adds to a list of numerous plenty Nigerians who have been assassinated, maybe in similar fashion, but very popular personalities whose deaths have still not been investigated. Funcho Williams, Bolaige. You would never, not call that name.
when you talk about issues like this. But it's imperative we highlight the fact that just like we talked about the Pope and Buhari yesterday, this man rose through the ranks. He did his time. He served this country. Yes, along the line, things happen, but it doesn't change the fact that this was a very prominent and very committed Nigerian. If you look at his career history, we know that he joined the Nigerian Defense Academy as a member of the 21 regular course on January 3rd, 1977. I don't think my parents have even thought about having us at that time. He was commissioned as a pilot officer in July of that year. It is safe to say he really worked hard, and the usual story of the son of a peasant farmer. That was how he's from Adamawa State. But we must highlight, of course, some of the controversies around his name. In 2016, he was accused of financial impropriety by the EFCC, although even then he denied completely that he had any hand in it. Well, I don't know what the investigation.
When he was killed, he was still, being
investigated.
tried and being investigated. There was meant to be court cases and his testimonies in court over the misuse of about 3.9 billion. His son, I think, was also one of the people who was named
in the case.
That whole controversy in that whole case. But eventually, after his death, of course, that case was thrown out. It was by the courts. Till tomorrow, we will never be able to actually know what happened,
because
not,
he died. He didn't plan to die, but he did die, and as usual, there were commiseration from the president and other top government officials saying that he was a great Nigerian, and I believe he was a great Nigerian as well. May his soul continue to rest in peace. So in 2018, we lost the Air Chief Marshal Alex Bade to gunmen.
I would also quickly mention before we go, I always will quickly mention, if you remember also the death of General Al-Khali, I believe that was his name. He was also one of the top high-ranking members of the Nigerian army who was killed in a very, very terrible way. And the country still has, not been able to get to the root of some of these murders. But
we need the investigations not to die. I think this would be a good opportunity to call on relevant authorities not to let these men who served the country all their lives, not part of it, all their life, they deserve more. They deserve justice. Find the killers and have them face the law. I guess that's what happened today in history. There are lots of other issues, but we just pick a few and highlight them for you. If you are a history buff, it's a good time to go catch up, find out what happened today. You can share with us on social media. Let's see the kind of issues that you like to remember that happened today in history.
10 years ago today, or yesterday actually, the Arab Spring started. Just want to throw that in.
I have an idea the kind of
Arab
things you will
started,
like. The controversial ones.
It was the day that the trader set himself on fire. Ignited the Arab Spring and changed, history forever. It's a good.
All right, so much we should learn from history. That's the reason we bring them up here to remind us that we have come a long way, but there's still more to be done. We're back after this break, and we'll be talking more issues. Stay with us.
We can't talk about education reform if we don't decolonize our education system.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize. Because it's just cultural. And I think it's just human nature.
They stop paying us salary. I don't like remembering it.
I am angry at Nigeria. I'm angry at this government which seems to be letting us down. I'm angry at us as a people.
In the process of struggling to free myself from his hand, he tore my pants and he raped me.
Yes, I commit offense truly.
Young girl, do you know where you are going? I say, I'm going to America. I say, now so that they talk, you are going to Libya. Which America?
as they do mark our place. Some people they die now.
This is Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
Welcome to Tea Time on Plus TV Africa, where we bring you the biggest entertainment stories and, of course, analyze them for you.
You can have both parents and still end up as a useless child. I see them every day.
Most times I worry more about where I'm coming from and where I am now. And that determines my next step.
Why are you sounding like
Alibaba
now?
Plus TV Africa, we're feeling good. No time to dull, everybody feeling alright.
I still make music and people are still buying. Sometimes I look myself minimal IU.
Akpala music is for mature-minded people. I got DMs sometimes from Malawi, like,
Sleeping early.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the Babin, I pay my rent. On the Babin, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
Welcome back to The Breakfast. More of these conversations coming your way this morning. We're moving straight now into two separate conversations, and we'll see how we can squeeze them in to the time that we have. The two biggest stories, I believe, in the country today. First of all, the release of the 300-plus Kankara boys, as they are popularly called. And of course, we will be talking also about the border closure and the decision of the federal government to reopen borders, all of them before the 31st of December. We've invited this morning the chairman, Civil Society Network Against Corruption, Mr. Olarinwaju Suraju. Thank you so much for your time.
We actually have, sorry, that was a mix-up. We actually have the Executive Director, Safety Beyond Borders, Mr. Olarinwaju Osho. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Thank you so much.
We'd hope to get Mr. Kwanum Terrace, who is a security expert, but for some reason we can't get in touch with him at the last moment. We're still holding out hope. But for now, we have the ED of Safety Beyond Borders. Okay, so let's start with your reaction to the return of the boys. Is it something that excites you, or you have reservations?
It's exciting. It's exciting that those number of boys could be kidnapped and be returned alive. It's exciting. But that such a thing is still happening in Nigeria 60 years after independence is disheartening.
Okay, what do you expect now going forward for the government to do? Because we can't have a repeat scenario.
I'm not so sure we're not going to have a repeat scenario, because if you look at the way these things have been happening since the first one happened in Chibok under Jonathan, under the watch of President Buhari, it has happened 4 times. So you cannot safely say that this is the last time it's going to happen. And then look at the numbers. I was watching the newspaper review this morning. One of the newspapers, I think the Nation, said 333 boys returned. And then Punch said 344. Until we value the life of Nigerians, and we know that even one person means so much that all the money in our central bank cannot buy, then we will not get tried. You saw the value that America placed on their people. You saw what they did to rescue just one person, that was taken in Nigeria and brought to Nigeria. Until we begin to place the right value on our people, on our children, on our citizens, we cannot say these things will not happen anymore.
All right. What are the details of this whole incident that stand out for you and you would say must be questioned? There's so many tiny details here, and you just mentioned the numbers that the government and, of course, people are not very sure of. Some people also said as high as 500 of these boys, but, of course, figures are still very conflicted here. But what other details do you think must be investigated and must be spoken about?
Thank you, Sarah. There are so many details that must be investigated and spoken about. Let's retract and go to when this thing started in the first place. We were not sure the number of the boys. Governor Masari came out and he said 300 boys. Now, the spokesperson to the president said only 10. Okay, so as long as we are not honest on handling issues like this, we do public relations with human life. We lie without feeling any remorse. We just pattern numbers around as if they are not human beings. Something needs to be done. Then on the issue of how the boys were released, if you watch some of the video, whether it is genuine or not, those boys said Nigerian military couldn't do anything. So which means they were watching and monitoring what was happening there. And they said Nigerian military couldn't do anything. Okay, then another statement says that Miyetti Allah negotiated the release. Okay, if that is true, we have a lot of questions to ask. Does Miyetti Allah know these people? How did the negotiation take place? Was money involved? Is our government completely honest with us? It can go on and on and on and on. And then the military said our people were involved in the negotiation. Okay, so these guys now, they would negotiate with them and they released the boys. I believe money changed hands. Even government said no. And some of us who are in the safety and security sector, we feel what goes on is like this. When these bandits and terrorists are broke and they need more money to purchase more sophisticated equipment, they come out, capture people, take them away. Negotiation takes place, they get money, they harm themselves more. See, if we are not careful, these guys are getting more and more sophisticated, harmed, even than our military people, even than our security operatives. That should be a source of worry to anybody who genuinely loves this country, whether he is the president of Nigeria, whether it's the chief of army staff, whether it's the IG of police. We should be genuinely worried that Nigeria is going down in a wrong path.
So what are your thoughts? Quickly share with us your thoughts towards those who are celebrating this and as an achievement of the government. There's I've seen a few posts of praise for the presidency and of course the Nigerian government for being able to secure his release. So do you agree that yes, there's a lot to be celebrated with this?
No, Osaro, Felicity, there's nothing to be celebrated. I'm ashamed to live in a Nigeria that 60 years after independence, a country that everybody noted was going to be the greatest superpower, from the developed world. 60 years down the line, anybody can walk to any school and capture children and travel with them. Now, 344 children. They were not loaded in one pickup. not 2 pickup, not 3 pickup, not 4 pickup, convoys of vehicles traveling from Katsina State to Zamfara. Nigeria, at 60 years old, does not have anything to intercept, such a thing before it happens. Or to even lay these people on the way and collect the boys before they were taken to the hideout. What are we celebrating?
Quite a sad narrative at the moment, even though, I don't know how to flip the coin. I would remain optimistic that this country will get things in order eventually. The release of these boys is good for the parents. At least some people will be happy during this period. Thank you very much, Sarah, for your thoughts so far. I think we'll just ride on to the next conversation and talk about the reopening of our borders. We know that the LCCI, that's the Lagos Chamber of Commerce, and other experts have raised an alarm that smuggling still remains, even though government says that there were some success with the ban on the
closure of the borders.
Closing of our borders. We know that the closing has been relieved, but there is still a ban on rice importation. What's your general reaction to this announcement by the government? Let's start from there.
We thank God that our government is sensitive at last. Because it amounts to insensitivity to do what government has done regarding border closure. A lot of people's lives and livelihood were negatively affected. But thank God that the borders are open now. Now let's look at the issue of rice and the issue of chicken. Okay, before the border was locked, the price of rice was way below how much it is being sold now. Okay, so what did we get? Now that foreign rice is being sold for around 33,000 naira to 35, some 45, and local rice is being sold for around 25, 26,000. Now, Nigerians are people that have appetite for foreign things, and wherever they can get it, they will go ahead and get it. Now, if it costs maybe like 15,000, 17,000, or 20,000 to get foreign rice, smuggled into Nigeria, do you think smuggling will stop? Now, about 3.5 kg of chicken is about 4,500 to 5,000 naira. If Nigerians see they can get that same quality, for around 2,500 smuggled into the country, do you think they will care? They will not care. So I don't think that the government's pronouncement is going to lead to any meaningful result. Smuggling will continue as far as our border remains the way it is right now. I told you 4 days ago or 3 days ago when I appeared on this program that if you go to the borders of Nigeria, you will be ashamed to be a Nigerian. For example, Seme border. When you get there, it looks like just like maybe Ketu Motor Park. But when you get to Aflawa border in Accra, in Ghana, it looks like an airport departure norm. The difference is so clear. We need to look at the issue of our border. Where is the border? How did we delegate the border? People will always find ways to come in and out.
All right, if time permits, Mr. Osho, if time permits, we certainly will be getting to unravel how we can improve on border security. But I want to ask you specifically, why the focus on rice and chicken? Every other thing has been released, but that. Why do you think the government is insisting on a continued ban?
The government is trying to control rice and chicken because, one of the areas that this government said they want to focus on is agriculture. And let's face the fact. Rice is the staple food of Nigeria. And then a lot of money has been pumped into, developing the production of the rice in Nigeria by Central Bank of Nigeria through this government's policy. So government is trying to protect its investment, by making sure that cheap rice come into the country and destroy what they have been trying to do. Chicken. It's almost our festivity protein. Every celebration we want to eat chicken, and then if we do not produce enough, then we have to get from outside. And if people can smuggle it in and make quick money, Nigerians will do anything to make money. I'm sorry for saying that, but that's the truth. Even if it comes to destroying their own country, they don't care. But government also have to show that, look, we care for our people and we do things in a way that will not adversely affect the life of the people. And if it is affecting them, they must know that they are gaining on another side, not that they're losing altogether.
All right. Mr. Osho, one of the statements that I heard from, or I read rather, from this whole conversation from the presidency, it said that the neighboring countries have learned their lessons. And so, it probably was time for us to go ahead and reopen the borders. Do you agree with that? Do you think that neighboring countries that the Nigerian government maybe had issues with regards smuggling and bringing in these goods to Nigeria, do you think that they truly have learned their lesson? And in the period where our borders were closed, what steps do you think that we could have taken in that period to ensure that we don't go back to where we're coming from after reopening?
Thank you, Osaro. If our government says that if the neighboring countries have learned their lesson, then let them tell us some of the following. One, in closing our border, what was the objective? What are the goals? What are the key performance indicators that government was looking for that will let them know that this exercise is successful? We have achieved what we wanted to achieve. Can they share it with Nigerians? So if they can share these things with us, the objectives, the goals, the key performance indicators, then we will be able to convince us, Republic of Benin, Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, Niger, Chad, Ghana, they have learned so and so lessons. Of course, we saw retaliation from these neighboring countries. For example, Ghana. Ghana became more hostile to Nigerians. I speak to a lot of people in Ghana who are Nigerians. Many of them, life became so tough for them, they were beginning to try to relocate to Sierra Leone. Because Sierra Leone sees Nigeria as a big brother that has done so much for her and is very friendly to our people. So many people are running away from this country. So if they learned lessons, why were they retaliating the way they were retaliating? Our government like just speaking to us as if we are fools, as if we are people that have no brain, that do not understand.
All right. There is this part to the conversation that I would like to bring in, the inconsistency in government policies when it comes to, investments and border control. The DG of the Nigerian American Chamber of Commerce, that's Mr. Shola, says that the constant closure and reopening of the land border shows that the government had no strategy to support businesses and make them competitive. I want to ask you, is that a primary reason, and what can be done to begin to address that scenario so that people can feel safe enough to be investing?
Thank you, Felix. I agree absolutely with what LCCI has said. Look at I'm sure you watch, all these foreign movies. You see the Mexican-American border, for example, and borders between, all these developed countries. See how they deploy the use of high-tech to achieve their objectives. Have you heard that any border was closed? Even whatever you smuggle inside your vehicle, because the borders are well-defined, and you can't pass through bush. You have to pass through the, designated border posts. They will search in your vehicles and they will get everything out. Why are we banning rice? Now, if you feel that you want to protect Nigerian agricultural sector, you just need to increase the duties that people pay to bring in things to Nigeria. But because we know that we are a country that is very poor in high-tech, and money is budgeted for all this high-tech infrastructure every year and embezzled without anybody doing anything about them. So we remain a country that is analog. And when you are an analog country, what you do is like what this government is doing. And the repercussion is what SCCI is telling us about. I mean,
So what is the way forward? That's the a part I really would love to hear. How can we begin to maybe entrench, get the government to entrench policies that are progressive and not retrogressive?
For the issue of border, for example, on the issue of border, for example, let's look at the various crash points on our border line. And let's set a target that by 2025, Nigeria wants to have successfully blocked all the loopholes in our border area. That's number one. Number two, by 2025, we want to make our, designated border posts world class. Number three, we want to improve the use of technology. Number four, we want to train our, border officer to be, number one, patriotic, love the country, do things right, just do things right, and we will all gain for it. And then on policies generally in Nigeria, there must be a purpose for every policy, a well thought out purpose, a well thought out objective, not just to pander policies around the way we do in Nigeria, and then the next government will come and throw it away because it was stupid in the first place.
All right.
That's what I think we should do going forward.
All right. I think it was yesterday that I mentioned, or 2 days ago that I mentioned how it might be a little disappointing that we don't have actual targets and KPIs set for people who hold positions like the DG of Customs. We don't have you're coming in 2014, these are the number of porous borders that we have. This is, the number we want to see in the next 2 years. It should have reduced by 500. We don't have any of those. And, we seem to remain in the same position. But I want to bring in the economic aspect of this now. Do you think that the reopening of the borders might help with reducing our inflation rate going forward? Would this help, us, with regards to our economy?
The border issue is not the only problem for inflation in Nigeria. Also, for example, look at the issue of petrol. Since President Muhammad Buhari came, we will deregulate, we will not deregulate, we'll go back, we'll go forward. Now, when we shift from 140 to 145, every other thing shifts. The cost of transportation shifts. The landlords increase their rent. Almost across board, the prices of everything goes up. Then you bring it back to 130. Does inflation that has gone up come down? It's not only border. Every aspect of our life. Yeah, and then you give waiver to special people. And then there's a special law for common men. These things are part of the reason why inflation keeps going up, not only the border. The border has its own aspect of it, but the way our government, bring up policy, they don't even. You find it shameful. There was a recent research on inflation in Nigeria. In the last 20 years, inflation rate in Nigeria has been 1,000%. What does that mean? What you are buying for 1 naira, about 20, 30 years ago, is 1,000 naira. Meanwhile, in developed countries, inflation rate is about 9%, which means that what you are buying for 1 naira, you now buy for 1 naira 90 kobo. So the policy of our leaders is a problem, not only in the issue of border, holistically. We need to look at policies and bring it out to achieve certain objectives. And then choosing leaders. You must choose leaders that are genuinely passionate. Look, that you are a politician. You want to compensate people that have done well for you. There's nothing wrong with that. Look at what President Biden is doing. He's looking for the best people across board and he's selecting them. We have good people in Nigeria. Even from the way you guys are analyzing things on Plus TV, a good government that wants to move the country forward can say, look, I've identified somebody in that station. He's not a politician, but I believe he can do this for me. But in Nigeria, position is to compensate people. And because you are compensating them, you don't expect anything from them. And because they know you don't expect anything from them, they will just misbehave. So
Quite
that's why you find that everybody that takes position of office in Nigeria becomes richer.
So,
You know,
Mr. Osho, are you then saying that you don't trust in the capabilities of the economic management team and those persons the presidency has appointed to steer Nigeria's economy in the right direction? There's certain names that are on that team that are pretty phenomenal. Have great records, I believe.
Otaro, this is the way it works abroad. It's not just only the economy management team. In developed life, the body language of the president, the pronouncement of the president, the negative things, fault of the leader, misbehavior of leaders, it affects the indicators of the economy. It affects the capital market. It affects everything. So if the economic management team sit down there and they are just reading policy, it has to go through the chief of staff to the president. It can be put in a file and just kept away. They can't have, the economic management team cannot have access to their president at when due. What work is the economic management team doing?
Quite a point you have there. Thank you very much, Mr. Olarewaju Osho, Executive Director, Safety Beyond Borders, for your time and your thoughts.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you. You guys are doing great work for Nigeria.
Thank you. God bless you too.
Looking forward to it. He's such an interesting person to speak with. I like, I always say, I like the passion in certain people. And he is one of those people. He made also very strong points. No
matter how experienced you are, you don't have access to the right information and you don't have the right authority. Your experience matters nothing.
Yes. And once again, for the maybe second or third time this week, we need to get ourselves in a place where we set targets for people who are taking positions. When you employ a marketer in an office, in a bank, you don't leave the person there for 5 years without KPIs. You don't say, oh, this is, your new position, doesn't matter whether you achieve it or not, but, just help us manage the people that are there. There's targets that are set. And so if you have a customs DG that knows, everybody knows that Nigeria has numerous porous borders. If you have someone in charge of immigration that knows that Nigeria has numerous porous borders, and the person will be in office for 3, 4, 5 years, and you've not been able to say that in 2010, we had 1,500 porous borders, illegal routes into Nigeria. And then in 2015, we now have just 600. And then in the next 2 years, we plan to have just 50. Then you're wasting time, and you've never, you'll get, those years will pass and you will not be able to actually pinpoint something that that person achieved in that office. So why do we have them there? Why would we say that we've had someone heading our immigration if we have these same numbers of porous borders between 2010 and 2020?
There are people who share some perspective that the closure of the borders at that initial stage, I think we haven't talked about it here on Plus TV Africa, that it was working for them. Not all of them share the perspective. I think it's important that we put it out there. Not all of them share the perspective that Mr. Olarewaju Osho has, and Osaogi as well, and some other persons. There is this professor of capital market at the Nasarawa State University, Professor Uche Waleke. He says the reopening of the land border is timely in view of the festive season. He expects that inflation pressure on food to moderate in the coming weeks. He says that will reduce while government revenues will get a boost. So that is somebody who is also a professional having that
because
perspective.
Because of the festive season.
Yeah, he says that things are going to change with the opening of the borders. Well, we always try to give you a bold perspective so you can make informed decisions as to what is the right path for us to go. This is a conversation that involves all of us, particularly the people at the borders, the DG, like you mentioned, the NIS. We need to have them accountable. We need to have checks, as Osaogi has highlighted, repeatedly of what is your target? I used to remember when I was
some of these agencies
still
have
young.
come to just
I said, Sorry, I said I wasn't going to work in the bank as a marketer. I did work in the bank for over a year after university. And you see the target, the pressure. You have to meet that target. You know you get gains. So the gains of the target and the monies you make allows you to move, you know, and push yourself that extra mile. So maybe we should begin to give particular targets, like Usaugia said, to our leaders. If they don't get to that target,
in the last few years, some of those agencies turned into revenue-generating agencies. Even JAM turned into a revenue-generating agency. The customs, was always praised, and then they would say, back then, a couple of years ago, maybe a decade ago, this is the amount of money that, the customs or immigration was making every year. And now in the new administration, they're now making, so and so amount. And, those were the things that were celebrated, and yes, great, we were making more money, but at the same time, how much better is the Nigerian Immigration Service itself? How much better is our customs? I would also quickly, say that I agree with Olarinwaju Osho with his views concerning the release of these boys. And if you, of course, you must know that I always talk about how we are never certain about the number of people that have been kidnapped.
It's just
when
figures.
Bashir Ahmed said, oh, it's just 10 people, it didn't make it better. When they say, oh, these boys weren't taken by Boko Haram, they were taken by bandits, doesn't make it better. When they say, oh, it's 333 or 344, 597 billion, it doesn't in any way make it better. It is still a disaster. And I personally don't think anything should be celebrated. The parents maybe should celebrate, but the country should not celebrate this.
Okay. We have two more areas to cover. We'll start with the manifest bias in judgment by a judge in Nigerian court. It has to do with the case of the former PDP spokesman, Metu, and of course the ex-NSA, Dasuki. We'll be right back.
A lot of the jobs that exist today will not exist in the next 10 years.
When I see people today shouting, we're not too young to run, we are ready to run. Ready to run to where?
The people of excellence are, to a certain extent, being held ransom by idiots and bandits.
Once you are in government, you believe everything you do is right. And once you are in opposition, everything the government does is wrong.
And so it's time for us to take over power.
That money will shoot every person that we know we can shoot. We don't let people die there.
You could have killed us for a long period of time.
At that time, why I carry gonorrhea? I first go hospital first, but it no go. Now I come make that mama.
He just pulled it, he pointed and shot.
What is the soul of a man?
They suffer too much. They suffer too much.
Issues around the Nigerian police, we have to tackle it holistically.
Welcome back to The Breakfast. Moving away from talking about border reopening and, of course, release of the Kankara schoolboys, we're now going to be having a conversation about bias and a court ruling that has been reversed. A few days ago, of course, the trial and the judgment against Olisa Metu, former PDP spokesperson, was reversed. Of course, the judge claimed that Justice Okonabang was biased in his judgment.
There is bias in judgment.
You know, the true test of a judgment is a reasonable man's test. That was according to Lord Denning. A judgment is a good judgment if a reasonable man goes home thinking justice has been truly served. But a reasonable man on the Nigerian street, is he thinking so for this court of appeal judgment? I find the recent decision of the court of appeal allowing the appeal of Olisa Metu as not only an insidious precedent, but also disconcerting news, likely to generate backlash.
Okay, the network is a bit fuzzy. Mr. Ogunlola, a second, please. We'll come back to you. Let's bring in Mr. Suraju. Let's hope that your network will be better. Should this kind of judgment have a place in our system?
It really should never be part of our history. It is rather unfortunate that where we have this level of avalanche of corrupt practices, corruption cases, corruption allegations, abuse of office, manifest criminalization of our electoral and also governance system. I think the judiciary would do a lot better than what we're getting or what the Court of Appeal has just done. I think the miscarriage of justice that is alleged or also decided on by the Court of Appeal is worse than what the High Court has been accused of. Was also Justice Abang invited to the Court of Appeal to come and defend his decision? The answer is no. Was Justice Abang also given another form of fair hearing before the Court of Appeal accused him? And I think this is also very grievous. And I think we could always have another means of getting the Court of Appeal or the judges of the Court of Appeal in this matter to also account for this. For there to be such a huge also unfair allegation against the judge of manifest bias. How do you account for the call the alleged manifest bias? Nigerians were there when Metu's case was being handled by Justice Abang, and we saw the level, the unprecedented level of the harassment of the judge to the extent that Metu was wheeled into the court in a wheelchair, like someone that was just also like a body that was just retrieved from the morgue, in a bid to stampede at the judge. And what you would have by an appellate court that is expected to also even deal on the issue of at the point of law in terms of reviewing the judgment, also descend almost into the arena to claim bias without the broader look at what actually was responsible for some of the comments that were made by the judge. I think this is really unfortunate for us as a country. This is really sad that we have this reversal of some of the progress made by the government and even the judiciary itself, by the judicial officers.
Mr. Suraju, from what you're saying, you don't agree that the appeal court could have spotted any level of bias from Justice Okonabang. Is it possible in any way that they maybe had seen that there was some level of bias and thought that there should be a retrial? Yes, you've already mentioned, the drama that has occurred in the course of the trial of Olisa Metu. But do you think it's possible that the appeal court maybe honestly had seen some level of bias and ordered a retrial? If you remember, Justice Okona-Bang also, not long ago during the Okeze Pazu and Samson Oga court case, was also accused of, similar bias. So do you think the appeal court maybe honestly did spot some bias?
I think in the interest of justice, the first thing that should cross the mind of an average judge or the judges of the Court of Appeal in this matter is to see how much that bias that is alleged by Olisa Metu has possibly led to miscarriage of justice. Is Olisa Metu actually also guilty or likely to be guilty or innocent of those charges?
But it doesn't take away, Mr. Suraju, it doesn't take away the possibility of course, still investigating Olisa Metu and still finding him guilty or not guilty. That still would happen.
No, it is not about investigating again. It is
it doesn't take away the possibility of Olisa Metu still being found guilty.
Let me tell you what it takes away. Let me tell you what it takes away. It has taken away almost the dignity of that judge. It has taken away the integrity of the process. It has actually taken away the possibility of fairness in the trial of that case, because the average next judge is going to be intimidated by the decision of the Court of Appeal judges that are not so-called alleged cases of bias.
Before we move to, I want us to move back to Mr. Yomi Ogunlola in a few seconds, but there's something that you mentioned that I'm going to bring back to you. You said that it's important to know whether the bias, that may have come from Justice Okona-Bang had influenced the judgment. So does your statement then, and I wish we could play it back, does your statement then mean that, yes, there could be some bias in a judge, but as long as it doesn't influence the judgment?
Anybody to allege bias. I can allege bias if I even am found guilty. I mean, I want to find a way of exonerating myself. It's up to the judges. Okay, you have still alleged bias. Tell us how that bias has led to the miscarriage of justice. It is not just enough. Maina can go to court. After Maina was granted bail, he ran away out of the country. You know the same before at the judge. The moment you find an upright judge, there will always be all manners of allegation and accusation on the part of the suspect, especially high-profile suspect like this one. Look at what has happened to Nigeria. Look at the cost. Do you know the cost of an trial?
All right, let's bring back Mr. Yomi Ogunlola. I want to ask you this question that might seem somehow, is manifest bias a term in the legal profession?
Yes, thank you very much. I said earlier that this decision of the Court of Appeal is not only an insidious precedent, it is also disconcerting news, likely to generate a backlash. In upholding the appeal, the court held that the judge was biased because of some remarks he made in passing, as we say it in law, in passing in the course of the judgment. Olarewaju made said a couple of things, regarding that kind of remarks that were made in passing. We call them obiter dicta in law. And the obiter dicta is not the ratio decidendi, which is the reason for the judgment. The Court of Appeal decision, I have not read the complete judgment. The little that I read from Premium Times failed to show how the obiter affected the mind of the judge and the quality of the judgment delivered by Abang J. The appropriate question to ask is, did this obiter dicta in any way impair the proper evaluation of law and evidence, in my candid opinion, that ought not to have been a basis for nullifying that judgment. It is a remark that was made in passing. My brother with you there told us all the dramas that unfolded inside the courtroom. Somebody fainting, refainting, brought in a wheelchair, on all kinds of things. The judge is a human being too, and he was saying all of these things. But everything he said in passing is not a part of that judgment. It is only if the Court of Appeal can show, like Olariwaju said, that the bias that they are talking about affected the mind of the judge and thereby impaired the proper evaluation of law and evidence. If they cannot show that, I am sorry, this is not a good judgment as far as I am concerned.
I must say thank you very much. In spite of the network, we were able to get your thoughts through. Thank you very much for joining us on The Breakfast.
You're welcome.
Same to Olariwaju Suraju. Thank you so much for your time, and Merry Christmas in advance.
Always a pleasure.
Have a good day. Interesting submissions there. I mean, some clarity for me. If you are going to discard a judgment, it should be on the merits of the case and not just on did the judge interpret the law as should be. Because when I saw manifest bias as the reason, I was asking, is it part of the legal profession? Well, let's see what happens in the coming days. I'm not shocked, to be honest. You know why? Because Orji Uzokalu is back at the assembly. He was released on a technicality, not that he is innocent of the crime. Where do we begin to have that kind of conversation in our system, in our laws, that somebody who is making laws, I'm not picking him out because I have a personal thing. It just doesn't make any sense. And then you see this kind of judgment, personal bias. Well, it's the appeal court. Who knows what is going to go whether it will go to the Supreme Court or a different perspective will come in. Dasuki was just called in as a witness, and his own case is that he wasn't allowed to actually share his thought. He was called all kinds of names, but he wasn't given the opportunity to defend himself. He is alleging a breach of his fundamental rights. Same thing with the other guy. Okay, they're popping in my ears and our ears, so we're going to go now. And when we come back, the conversation continues. On a lighter note, we'll get to know what's happening on social media, and our social media manager will be on hand to help make sense of that. So stay with us.
First point of accountability is asking questions.
Hello and welcome to Plus Sports and Plus TV Africa. I am Udoka Njoko.
Hi everyone, welcome to Plus Training.
You cannot continue to recycle poverty while you're spending a lot of money on unproductive ventures.
The government has to feel the impact.
Honorable Commissioner, sir, welcome to the show.
On Today with John and Helen, Charlie Boy will be talking about his family.
Family means that place that you run to when you're weather bitten by your environment and society. Family means everything. Family is one of the greatest masterpieces of God. When people start to question a lot of things that I do, I always smile, because if they knew where I'm coming from, they wouldn't say some of the things that they say.
Join us this Saturday, 19th of December at 9 a.m.
This medal has been directed to empower 1,000 persons with disabilities in each state in the next 12 months.
When I start hearing the shoot of gun,
every public policy has winners and losers, and some will not be very happy with you, while others, usually the silent majority, will be quite happy.
It's good to know you're still with us on The Breakfast. Now, it's no surprise that the Kankara boys made it to the trend map, closely followed by Boko Haram, especially after news that more than 300 of the abducted schoolboys have been released. To help us better understand what's being said online is our in-house social media manager, Buki November. Good to see you, Buki.
Good to see you too, Felicity.
Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Merry Christmas in advance.
Same to you, same to you.
I'm going to be coming next week with a Christmas hat. We're just letting everybody know now.
Do you?
I will.
Feel free. That's fine.
Okay. Ho, ho, ho.
We will not let him wear a hat.
If he wants his freedom,
I
if he
will.
wants to let him.
Maybe when we are doing Plus Trending, you can bring your hat.
For him, right? Right, that's fine.
Tell us, go ahead. What's going on social media?
Okay, so like you said, it's no surprise. I expected that that those topics were going to trend, and yeah. So the reactions online are split between, first off, anger, and then there are some people who are still in disbelief that this actually happened, that the boys were released. Well, some of the boys were released, and then there are people also clamoring for accountability online because, yeah, it's just proper for us to know what led to their release. Well, because earlier on there were videos. There was a video released, arguably released by Boko Haram and people showing the boys, and then they made some demands. So people want to know were those demands met, what led to their release, because it's fair to say nothing goes for nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So first off, let's tackle the part of disbelief, right? And the disbelief part came because first off, Abike Dabiri tweeted that the boys had been released. That was early in the evening, and then came back to say she posted a new profile picture.
She deleted the tweet, actually.
No, but Twitter doesn't forget.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, it's Twitter. Nothing gets deleted from Twitter, even from the internet. It's always there. So, yeah, she came back and then she said, oh, sorry, her account, Instagram and Twitter, had been hacked. And then she changed the profile picture and she said, oh, disregard the post about the boys being released. And people came for her. Because, yeah, you don't come and then say, people came for her, though, because they were like, okay, so, yeah. And then Bashir Ahmad...
This hacking excuse is becoming
overused. You get it. Everybody just says, just say it was hacked. Yeah, so Bashir Ahmad, the special advisor to the president on new media, came up and said that, let me finish your surrogate. He came up and said that the boys had been released. And then everybody came out, people online then came out and said, we're waiting for your retraction, because apparently that's what you people do these days. You put news out there and then you retract. So nobody can move until we get, where do we get the gist from? You're supposed to be our source of information. And so people were waiting for him to retract, but he never did. So the disbelief part just went on. First off, we have the post from Tunji Yomi, and he says, Abike Dabiri dropped this news in the morning before she cowardly debunked it and claimed her account was hacked. The fact remains this administration or government is shady and dubious. I laugh in Spanish. It just
you can't blame them. And apologies for
why
you can't blame a person who says that, because if you have a government aide tweet that the boys have been released, 4 hours before, tweeted that they had been released, and then said that, oh, disregard any tweets, there are many handles that look like mine, or as it was a verified handle, and then when that excuse didn't work, she then said that she lost control of her social media handles. I mean, I understand the need for old people to have social media, but they need to also learn the lying part of it. Sometimes you need to dispel some rumors, and if you're not smart about it, it wouldn't work.
Absolutely. Also, we have this comment from God My Helper on Twitter, and this one came from another angle actually. He says, I don't believe that no parents came out, but let me just read this comment first. He says, God my helper, my only helper, that's his handle, which was funny though. He says, no parent came out to speak on their missing son. We didn't even hear from the principal of the school. All we kept seeing is drama. Now, dramatically, they are back. Northern people, una know your dirty deals and scripted dramas. # Nigeria, my country. So basically what he's saying is that
he doesn't believe there was actually...
Exactly, that it was even an abduction in the first place because he feels everything was staged, you know. And
once again, can't blame a person who feels that way. You really can't. You would expect, if you remember when we talked about the Sandy Hook not long ago, Lord have mercy. CNN there was chaos on media when those things happened. Every single shooting in the US, every single international media organization is chaotic. And they go in every angle. They interview teachers, the students, parents, the principals of the schools, everybody gets it. But same thing happened with Chibok, where, there were similar comments back then, that where are the parents of these people who were kidnapped? Why aren't they rioting? Why aren't they complaining? So same thing with, if someone says, where are the parents? Where's the principal of the school? Where are the teachers in the school? You can't blame them.
Yeah. And now to the part for requesting accountability. I got one comment from Ada Akwaeze on Twitter also, and she says that, how were they rescued? Where did they take the boys to? Who was behind their abduction? Was it really Boko Haram? Has any arrest been made? Questions that need to be answered. And then I didn't put this comment in, but I also saw comments where people were saying what was given to get the boys back.
That's
Are the borders open now, as they requested? What was done? I honestly I don't even feel it is proper that they just they let us know what's going on. It's just proper that they do that.
We're all looking forward to hopefully getting some answers. Thank you very much, Buki, for always keeping us updated.
You're welcome.
What's happening on social media. I guess that's how we wrap things up now. Remember, you can join the conversation. Share your thoughts on any of the issues. We're dropping questions and comment section on our social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Absolutely, and one very big reminder that I must throw out there is if you've seen the figures from COVID-19 in Lagos in the last 24 hours, I don't think anybody needs to warn you. Please, if you can stay home this Friday, please stay at home. Yes, clubs are breaking the rules, and letting people stay a lot longer and, filling up the place, but the figures are not looking good. And we need to stay alive to see next year. So please maintain social distancing.
Mask,
wear your face mask.
Wash your hands properly, or use a hand sanitizer. And
be faithful also.
All right, we'll see you in a bit. Felicity Ezewike.
And I am Osaoge Ogbo. The news comes up next at 9 a.m.
For upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
A lot of the jobs that exist today will not exist in the next 10 years.
10 years.
When I see people today shouting, we're not too young to run, we are ready to run. Ready to run to where?
That people of excellence are, to a certain extent, being held ransom by idiots and bandits.
Once you are in government, you believe everything you do is right. And once you are in opposition, everything the government does is wrong.
And so it's time for us to take over power.
Hello, and thank you for joining us on the news. I'm Felicity Ezewike. Kaduna State Governor Aminu Masari says more than 300 schoolboys who were kidnapped have been handed over to the government security agents. Governor Masari, who said in a televised interview, explains that a total of 344 boys held in a forest in neighboring Zamfara state have been freed. Masari said the boys, whose abduction was claimed by Islamist militant group Boko Haram in an unverified audio recording, were on their way back to Katsina State and would be medically examined and reunited with their families today.
144 of the students have been handed over to security agency. I think we have recovered most of the boys, is not all of them. So we are making arrangement to transport them to this night. Well, this news is reaching us about an hour ago. And the news has gone out that the children have been discovered and harmed. And all of them are on their way to Katsina this night from the forest area of Zamfara State. And we will, by tomorrow, we will have them medically examined, and arrangements will be on the way to unite them with their families. But in the first place, all our boarding schools, we have fenced them and secured them. But what it means now, before school resumes, we must make sure working with the police and the other security agencies are sufficient and the security are posted to schools. In addition, on our own part, we are going to increase the number of the private security that we employ in each school to make sure that we don't experience what we have experienced in the last 6 days.
Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has welcomed the release of the kidnapped students from Kankara, Katsina State, describing their safe return as a big relief to their families, the entire country, and the international community. The president's spokesman, Garba Shehu, in a statement on Thursday, quoted the president as expressing the nation's appreciation for the steps taken by all those involved to make their release possible. Buhari specifically cited what he called the spirit of partnership and the collaborative efforts of the government of Katsina State, Zamfara, and military leading to the release. He commended the nation's intelligence agencies, the military, and corruption. The president noted that the administration was fully aware that it was elected to resolve challenges. The United States has condemned the abduction of hundreds of children by gunmen from Government Science Secondary School, Kankara, on December 11 and urged government to hold those responsible accountable to the full extent of the law. The U.S. Department of State condemned the abduction in a statement issued by a spokesperson after the release of the abducted students. President Buhari had on Saturday strongly condemned the attack on the school in Kankara and charged the military as well as the police to go after the attackers to ensure that no student was missing or harmed. In a statement by Garba Shehu, his senior special assistant on media and publicity, the president had also directed the reinforcement of security at all schools in line with the Safe Schools policy of the administration. Also, Katsina State Governor Aminu Masari on Saturday ordered the immediate closure of all boarding secondary schools in the state and pleaded with parents to remain calm as efforts were being made by the government to ensure the safe return of the students who are now back in Katsina in a few hours. The People's Democratic Party, the PDP House of Representative caucus, has called on Nigerians to support its call to impeach President Muhammadu Buhari. The party caucus at the House of Representatives spoke to newsmen in Abuja saying its call for the impeachment of the president is because of his refusal to address the House on the state of the nation and his inability to tackle the nation's myriad of challenges. Its members urged Nigerians to prevail on their representatives at the National Assembly to act swiftly in order to address the state of the nation's economy and a poor state of security.
The President having failed to keep to his promise to honor the invitation of the House, we, as members of the PDP caucus, restate our call on Nigerians across all tribes, across all religion, across political parties, to awaken their representatives and senators to the realities of the moment and rescue our dear country Nigeria from this road to perdition by invoking their constitutional powers under Section 143 of the Nigerian Constitution and commence an impeachment proceeding against President Muhammadu Buhari for gross incompetence and breach of Section 14(2)(b) of the Nigerian Constitution.
The point that is important that we are trying to point out from this part of the side of the table is, do you sleep peacefully? Are you satisfied with the education of this country? Are you satisfied with the situation of your life? Do you sleep with your two eyes closed? Are you worried? Will you travel peacefully for Christmas? If you are not going to travel peacefully for Christmas, if you are afraid that even in your home, your children will not be safe, is it not time for you to join the few minority, the way you call us, so that we can put things right in this country?
Going back to Katsina State and the abduction of students at a government science secondary school, Governor Samuel Ortom of Benue has ordered the closure of all boarding schools in the state. Ortom, who announced the decision on Thursday when he visited the Maximum Security Custodian Center in Makurdi, condemned the abduction of students in Katsina. He said he had directed the Commissioner for Education to complete necessary steps to close all boarding facilities in Benue as a preventive measure against the abduction of students. The governor said if hundreds of students could be abducted in Katsina, the home state of the president, no place was safe again. Ortom expressed regrets at the abduction and ongoing killings across the country and called on President Buhari and security chiefs to adopt new methods of addressing insecurity. He also directed the immediate completion of the 4-block cell building the Benue state government was constructing at the center in Makurdi to decongest existing cells. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has registered 1,145 new infections of coronavirus COVID-19 in the country. The agency made this known via its verified website on Thursday. It said that as of December 17, 2020, 1,145 new confirmed cases and 1 death was recorded in the country. The figure was the highest ever infection recorded in one day since record-keeping of COVID-19 commenced in Nigeria. The latest figure surpassed the 930 cases recorded across the country on Wednesday, December 16, giving further indication that the country is experiencing a second wave of the virus. According to it, the new infections are from 23 states and the Federal Capital Territory. The NCDC also disclosed that 335 patients have been discharged from isolation centers after testing negative for the virus. The Public Health Agency stated that Lagos State, the epicenter of the virus, recorded the highest number with 459 cases. FCT, Kaduna and Plateau confirmed 145, 138 and 80 respectively. Other states include Katsina with 70, Gombe 52, Niger 31, Kano 23. Bayelsa had 21 cases, Bauchi 18, followed by Ondo with same figure. Rivers has 17 cases, Ogun and Oyo 12 cases each. Edo 8, Nasarawa 8. The rest are Ebonyi 7, Osun 6, Ekiti 5, Kebbi 5, Borno 4, Jigawa 3, Akwa Ibom and Anambra 2 and 1 each. Governor Simon Lalong of Plateau State has tested positive for COVID-19. The governor's director of press and public affairs, Market Macham, confirmed this in a statement in Jos. Macham said Lalong's test result returned positive, while other members of his family tested negative. The governor is asymptomatic and has gone into self-isolation. The deputy governor of Plateau State would handle all state matters in his absence. And the Lagos State government has urged residents to be thankful to God for his guardians and protection during the outbreak of coronavirus in the state. Commissioner for Home Affairs, Lagos State, Anofia Elegushi, gave the advice during the 14th edition of the Christmas Carol service of 9 lessons. Elegushi said that globally, COVID-19 took all nations by surprise, with the great nations being brought to their knees. According to him, the end of the year is a period of sober reflection, a time to take stock of all activities from the beginning of the year in order to express gratitude to the Most High for his divine intervention in Lagos State. You're watching the news on Plus TV Africa. We continue with the story from the Federal Ministry of Health, where authorities say the rate for pre-travel COVID-19 testing for travels within the ECOWAS region will be harmonized. The Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Hanire, who spoke at the Presidential Task Force PTF daily briefing on Thursday in Abuja, said that the conclusion was made at the 4th meeting of ECOWAS Ministerial Coordinating Committee on COVID-19. Hanire also said that the technical working group of the Health Ministry on COVID-19 was examining modalities to obtain access to vaccines for the country. According to Hanire, the country's epidemiological trend has already started to show that the curve is rising again, with the total number of active cases now 7,087. There is also a corresponding increase in the number of serious cases requiring hospital admission in high-density units for oxygen therapy or mechanical ventilation support in intensive care units. The Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Polytechnics, SANIP, has scheduled a 14-day warning strike to commence nationwide on January 4. Its president, Adebanjo Ogunsipe, made the announcement in Abuja on Thursday while addressing newsmen at the end of the 62nd regular meeting of the General Executive Council of the association. To embark on the strike was taken at the end of the meeting because the federal government had failed to meet the demands of the union. The demands of the union include the implementation of the needs assessment report and release of funds for the polytechnic sector, as well as the release of a scheme of service for polytechnic workers. Other demands are payment of arrears of minimum wage for the staff of polytechnics and the reconstitution of the governing councils of all federal and state polytechnics, among others. Away from that, the former Emir of Kano, Mohammed Sanusi II, and Lagos-based lawyer Femi Falana have argued in favor of restructuring the country. They spoke at the Ekiti State University at Ado-Ekiti during the 24th convocation lecture of the institution, where they asked Nigerians to resist anyone against the restructuring agitation. Our correspondent files in this report.
Both speakers amplified their voices that restructuring should rather be seen as a bid for equitable distribution of wealth and resources between the federal and state governments and building of strong systems through strong moral values. Guest lecturer Femi Falano, SAN, who delivered the lecture titled Restructuring and the Liberation of Nigeria, said defects in the federal system forms the legitimate demand for urgent restructuring in order to liberate the people. It said the way forward is that the struggle for restructuring requires building a peaceful and united Nigeria rooted in social justice, equity, and genuine freedom.
And my position, therefore, is that our governors must put on their thinking caps and challenge Abuja. Nobody is going to give you your freedom. Restructuring is about freedom. And unless you fight the authorities in Abuja, nobody is going to give you restructuring. Particularly, the APC government put restructuring in their manifesto and program. But upon getting to power, President Buhari says no. And Buhari is not alone. President Obasanjo was there for 8 years. Jonathan for 5 years. Yaradua about 2 years. The North has produced 2 presidents. The South, 2, between 1999 and now. None of those presidents has ever, while in power, believed in restructuring. It's when they're out of power that they start talking about restructuring.
The University Chancellor, the 14th Emir of Kano, Muhammad Sanusi II, in his remarks said there is a difference between restructuring, secession, division, and civil war. He noted that some are using ethnic profiling to divide the country.
States of origin. The Constitution goes to the extent of saying there must be a minister from every state in the Federation. That is all. Whether these ministers are competent or idiots, whether they went to school or did not go to school, it doesn't matter, they can all be men in their 70s, no woman. The youth do not have to be represented. In other words, our concept of diversity is so limited.
The EKSU Vice Chancellor, Professor Edward Olanipekun, earlier in his welcome address, said the Nigerian nation, perhaps because of the colonial mode of evolution, still remains contentious.
In view of the prevailing developments in the country, and as part of our contributions towards nation building, the topic for this year's convocation lecture has been carefully chosen such that the recommendations therein will be able to, hopefully, address fundamental issues, urgently desiring a collective interrogation as a nation. The lecture, as well advertised, is titled Restructuring and the Struggle for the Liberation of Nigeria.
As this debate is resuscitated, it is only expected that its sustenance is largely dependent on fairness and equity from all parts of the country.
Away from Nigeria for a bit, we go to South Africa, where a second wave of COVID-19 infections has seen cases of the respiratory disease spike by as much as 10,000 in a single day. The number of people who have succumbed to COVID-19 in South Africa has surpassed 24,000 after 184 fatalities were recorded in the past 24 hours, once again marking a grim milestone in the country's fight against the respiratory disease. The death toll is currently 24,011, with the Eastern Cape accounting for 103 of the latest fatalities, while 58 were in the Western Cape. In Gauteng, 11 people succumbed to the virus, and in KwaZulu-Natal, 8 people died. COVID-19 also claimed 4 lives in the Free State. So far, 780,313 people in the country have managed to recover from the virus. In a statement on Thursday, the Health Ministry said there are now 892,813 cases of the virus after an additional 9,126 infections were picked up in a 24-hour cycle. The Health Ministry further said that a cumulative total of over 6,000 tests have been completed. 600,000 tests, have been completed, with 42,543 new tests conducted since the last report. Director of Prevention of the Senegalese Ministry of Health and Social Action, Mamadou Ndiaye, says the country will receive its first doses of the COVID-19 vaccine in March. Ndiaye, who was speaking during an interview with Radio Sud FM, said members of Gavi and the Vaccine Alliance, including Senegal, would have these first doses after approval by the World Health Organization, WHO. Media reports that Senegalese Minister of Health and Social Action recently said the West African country had not chosen a vaccine at this stage, but that it was participating in the international mechanism for group purchasing of the vaccines. On Thursday, the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention released a survey conducted by the Africa CDC in partnership with the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, showing that a predominant majority, that's about 79% average of responders in Africa, would take a COVID-19 vaccine if it was deemed safe and effective. And outside of Africa, U.S. President-elect Joe Biden has tested negative for COVID-19 after an incoming White House advisor, Cedric Richmond, contracted the deadly respiratory disease, a spokeswoman for Biden said in a statement. Spokeswoman Kate Bedingfield said Richmond was not in close contact with Biden, as defined by the Centers for Disease Control. And in Australia's most populous state, New South Wales, 10 new cases of coronavirus have been reported as authorities battle to contain a new cluster in Sydney's northern coastal suburbs as hundreds waited in testing queues. New South Wales State has since Thursday urged about 250,000 residents in the affected suburbs in Sydney to stay home for 3 days as authorities struggle to contain an outbreak of cases around the state's northern beaches. With NSW reporting 10 new cases, nearly all Australian states and territories began imposing mandatory quarantine periods for people entering from the country's most populous state. People waiting in testing queues said they were frustrated and a bit apprehensive, as well as disappointed by having to wait hours in the queues.
And then overnight, since 8 p.m, we have had 10 additional cases. So those 10 additional cases mean that in the last 48 hours, there's been a total of 28 linked to that cluster. All but one is confirmed to be linked to that cluster. Can I please stress to everybody in and around Avalon and the northern beaches that for the next 3 days, you should not be leaving your home unless it's absolutely necessary.
We're on a short break. When we come back, we have more stories, so stay with us. And in sports, Bayern Munich and Poland international Robert Lewandowski says he is proud to have won the FIFA Men's Player of the Year award ahead of global superstars Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. The player led his team to a league and cup domestic glory and a Champions League triumph that saw his side ruthlessly destroy European heavyweights Barcelona on their way to the final. Liverpool's Jurgen Klopp won the Coach of the Year award for a second year in succession after securing Liverpool's first league title win for 3 decades. Klopp, however, confessed that he thought his counterpart at Bayern, Hansi Flick, had done enough to win the title with his trophy haul at the club this year. Bayern goalkeeper Manuel Neuer, winner of the Goalkeeper of the Year award, said he could not have performed at a high level if it weren't for his teammates on the defensive side of the ball. Tottenham and South Korea forward Son Heung-min thanked his fans for clinching the Puskas Award for Best Goal of the Year after his incredible individual goal, where he dribbled the length of the pitch to score against Burnley in the Premier League. Shortly after being named the Best FIFA Women's Player 2020, Manchester City fullback Lucy Bronze has dedicated her award to former France manager Gerard Houllier, who died earlier this week. Bronze says the famous coach took an interest in her during her time at Olympique Lyonnais, saying he would look out for her before and after big matches and that he would even come out to watch her play for England. Bronze, who is the first female English player to take the prize, also says she is happy to be playing back on English soil and to be bringing silverware home with Manchester City. Netherlands' Serena Wigman said she was honored to have the Best Women's Coach Award for the second time after previously winning in 2017. And that's the news at this hour. For more news updates, please follow us at Plus TV Africa on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa. We're back later with more stories making the headlines. Do join us again. Thank you for your time and remember to stay safe.
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
A lot of the jobs that exist today will not exist in the next 10 years.
10 years.
When I see people today shouting, we're not too young to run, we are ready to run. Ready to run to where?
The people of excellence are, to a certain extent, being held ransom by idiots and bandits.
Once you are in government, you believe everything you do is right. And once you are in opposition, everything the government does is wrong.
And so it's time for us to take over power.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them.
If you don't talk, then go beat you.
Now 2,500 and they pay.
Today's top stories are
And the Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria.
I'm here at Yunus Bashorin Street where
The fire destroyed our transformer complete castle.
A lot of the jobs that exist today will not exist in the next 10 years. 10 years.
When I see people today shouting, we're not too young to run, we are ready to run. Ready to run to where?
The people of excellence are, to a certain extent, being held ransom by idiots and bandits.
Once you are in government, you believe everything you do is right. And once you are in opposition, everything the government does is wrong.
And so it's time for us to take over power.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the Babin, I pay my rent. On the Babin, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything.
Many thanks for joining us on the show today. This is Plus Sports and Plus TV Africa. And we say, thank God it's Friday and it's just a few days to Christmas. And, well, I've got Wale Scott here, and I don't know how prepared he is, but it looks like the city of Lagos isn't so ready for Christmas, because by this time we'll be seeing Christmas decorations all around Lagos, especially around Adeola, Odeku, and of course at Jose Adeogun. We see the bank decorations on that road, but it looks like we're not prepared for Christmas.
I don't think anybody wants to believe that Christmas has COVID. I don't think so.
Santa Claus, no COVID.
Santa Claus, I don't think he has COVID. But even if Christmas will come, he will come on 25th of December. He has to 14-day quarantine. You know, we're talking about Christmas in January.
Yeah.
Well, the truth be said, I think, like I said on the show a few days ago, I said, I think we should forget about the looking for money to buy chicken and rice and all that. We should be more particular about thanking God that, first of all, we're here.
Yeah.
Our family is here, and we're doing very well. Christmas is Christmas, yes. But I think you can only celebrate it when you are alive.
True.
And we are. So we can celebrate it. So if now boiled egg, if na round fish, you can arrange. Just eat it with a lot of thanksgiving to God that we're alive, really.
True. And you know, when you give your analysis, I really don't like the fact that you have to mention some certain type of food. Because
it's not my fault you like food, though.
Yeah, because now
it's not my fault you like food.
Boiled egg and round. That's when you call it jackie.
Now you're hungry, eh?
I'm hungry. I'm hungry.
Come on.
Of course, there's another thing. I mean, we talked about this some time ago. One said about how parents get to support their kids in sports, and I said I wasn't so happy because I didn't get so much of support from my parents when I started playing basketball, and I couldn't go pro. But there's something that I saw on the news today when Rooney's son, who plays football, has also signed for Manchester United and he's been handed the number 10 jersey. A lot of support from parents too, son.
Yeah, my second daughter is 12. She's a blue belter in Taekwondo. And she started from school. And if not for the COVID-19, she was going to go and represent Lagos State at the sports festival. She's only 12.
Wow.
You know, and she's a blue belter, a first blue belter now, and she goes to the next belt again after that. And I think our parents are now becoming more
aware.
Not aware. They're becoming more, they now agree with our, okay, go to school, shall, but you can do it if you want, even if it's music. Sing your song, or at least go to school, you know. So I think they are becoming more flexible these days and say, okay, good, do your thing, but just try and stay in school. Because the truth be said, I know of only 2 Green Eagles players, footballers, Shegun Egbami, Adoke Amesiemaka, who's a barrister, who are doing quite well now. And the guys on their level were playing then not for money, but for the passion and the love they have for the country. And most of them are not doing very well right now.
Okay.
You know, so the truth be said, I understand when our parents say, okay, now you can do your sports. When we parents now say, do your sports, but read your books. Because after sports, retirement comes in. And it's only what you've gotten when you were doing sports and your certificate that you have left, you know. So I understand that. But Rooney's son has signed for Manchester United. Rooney was in Manchester United great. The young man is going to be wearing shirt number 10, which is good for Colleen, the mom. Rooney's wife is going to be his manager. Okay. And I think it's a starting up for him. But I'm very sure the young lad is probably in school right now as we speak. And maybe in the evening, he goes to Man United. So let's follow their trend. Since Africans always tend to follow what the white folks do, let's do it the way they do it. Morning school, evening training.
I know when you said we parents, I mean, my producer from the control room had to say, he had to clear the air that, no, you.
He's a naughty man.
No, because I don't have any, they had to just put it out there that I'm a single.
It's not you,
I'm a bachelor. It's very, very crazy.
See, if you are looking for a wife, who could just announce and pay marketing for.
We're not announcing anything.
Pay marketing for adverts.
But let's talk about Robert Lewandowski, who has, I don't think he's looking for accolades. He's just doing his business right there on the football pitch. But of course, the accolades have come rolling in as he won the best men's player at the best FIFA Football Awards in Zurich, beating last year's winner, Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, to the top prize. The Polish striker scored 55 goals in just 47 games last season as he helped German giants Bayern Munich to a treble. The winners were decided by nominations from national team captains and head coaches, an online ballot of fans, and 200 media representatives. And this is the first time Lewandowski has won the award, with Barcelona forward Messi and Juventus Ronaldo usually getting the top prize in that one. Nobody can take it away from Lewandowski. He deserves every accolade coming his way this year, even next year.
I think everybody wants change. Everybody wants something different. Everybody wants a brand new thing, a brand new car, a brand new shirt, a brand new house. You know, we want a brand new thing. So honestly, we are tired of the stereotype Ronaldo, Messi. It's them all the time.
Yeah.
It's too stereotyped, the usual suspects. And we're tired of it, really. And it's Lewandowski. But Lewandowski's story brings tears to your eyes because, you know, his father was a junior judo championship, a champion, and he died eventually. And somehow he got his way to Legia Warsaw in Poland. He's Polish. And then he was sold because he wasn't good enough for 1,000 Polish, which is less than, say, $200, $300 or pounds. And because he wasn't good enough, you know, and he eventually found his way to Germany. started playing in big German clubs, and everybody expected it would be the biggest thing in German football. But the Germans are tribalistic, They always remind you that he's Polish, or guy, you're a Polish person, But this is the biggest thing about. But the one thing that we should know about Lewandowski is that he puts everything into his game.
Yeah.
A man cannot score 55 goals in 47 games. Who does that? It's not mortally possible.
Yeah.
He plays 47 games and scores 55 goals. We're excluding assists now.
True.
He's a lethal striker. On the field, he's an assassin, well-trained. And I think this is a story from grass to grace. Honestly, I'm speaking of myself now. I don't know if the Twitter guys out there, when you see my Twitter handle, you can actually agree with me. I think people are tired of Lionel Messi. People are tired of the stereotype Ronaldo.
But
it's the same thing.
If Lionel Messi and Ronaldo are performing on a certain level and no one matches that level, of course you don't have any choice than to give them the award. We had the likes of Eden Hazard, who was almost going to get to that point. There was also a Neymar who left Barcelona and headed over to Paris Saint-Germain saying he wants to be the best player. He's not even in the top 3 in the FIFA best player categories. So if you don't perform up to the level of Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi, of course you can't get recognized.
Please don't say this.
True.
I'll tell you why I'm saying this.
Okay,
see, life is packaging. It's about the brand you've been able to build around you. Are you saying honestly that there are no players across the globe that are not doing better than Messi?
Well,
it's brand.
Visibility as well matters.
Yes, exactly. It's branding. This young guy scoring, is he Erling Haaland? Or the guy that scored every day?
Borussia Dortmund.
I think he has scored more goals this year post-COVID or he has done better than most players post-COVID than any of these 3 that have won this award. Branding. Like you said, exposure.
But I'm sure we'll hear his name
This boy
next year.
scores like a drug addict on drugs. And he's drugs like right now. And he scores like that. And the truth be said, it's about branding. But I am proud that a player like Lewandowski has taken the scene. And we're going to see a gradual shift from Messi, Ronaldo. Listen, it's obvious that off the field, you're a fantastic guy. On the field, we have to see your passion. The sad thing is these awards are being voted for. And people who are voting for you want to check different things. But most importantly, the passion you have to play. What did Ronaldo have over most players across board? The passion, the will to win. We must win.
Exactly.
What did Messi have over the players? So, see, talents abide abroad, everywhere. But the guys who are going to vote also check for the passion you have for the game. And Lewandowski has all of that. And we're looking at our newbies in football today. Does Neymar have that passion? I don't see it. Neymar is more particular about winning this award. And in the course of it, he's making the world know that I want to win this. I have to win this. Mbappe, yes, tries to be as modest as possible, but also shows he wants to get there like yesterday. It doesn't work like that. But Lewandowski, Messi, Ronaldo were patient, they show passion, and they all deserve it. Maybe in the future, on the course of the show, we identified Erling Haaland now. In the course of the shows over the years, maybe we'll be able to identify other players who have shown the kind of passion that these players have shown.
Very true. Still talking about the FIFA Best Award. For Liverpool boss Jurgen Klopp, he was recognized for leading Liverpool to their first Premier League title by being named the best men's coach for the second successive year, I beg your pardon. The German won the award in 2019 after lifting the Champions League with Liverpool and beat Bayern Munich, Hansi Flick, and Leeds boss Marcelo Bielsa to the top honor this year. Let's listen to Jurgen Klopp, and we'll be right back.
I'm too old for flying, so it's easy for me to stay humble. And the thing is, I have just a world-class team. I work in a world-class club with sensational players and people around me. Means it's our responsibility to be as successful as possible. So that's it. So nobody has to worry that I could get satisfied. I don't really know how that works. So no. But there are no guarantees for success. The only chance you have is to work as hard as you can. If you do that, still no guarantee, but it's the only way that you can get at least a little bit. So that's why we try absolutely everything every day.
Well, congratulations to Jurgen Klopp. But the question is, did he do better than Bayern Munich's Hansi Flick?
Maybe not. But what we said before we put Klopp on the show was the passion you show.
Yeah.
Klopp on the field of play. When they score, you see what he does. When they don't score, you see what he does. He shows so much passion. Listen, the guys who are actually voting for these players are human beings. And they look at everything, including the passion you show for the game. And the passion he shows for the game is beyond every other nominee on that list. Klopp shows so much passion, you think he's going to die, they don't win and everything. And that's the extra edge you have. You have the talent, you have everything else, but your boss, who's going to give you the award, also checks the passion you have. Does this guy, he has a talent, he comes to work regularly, he comes to work early, he leaves late. Is he actually passionate? They are all different things. Really.
Very true. And there's one I do not agree with, which is the Goalkeeper's Award. There was more success for Bayern Munich as Manuel Neuer won the Best Men's Goalkeeper Award, beating Atletico Madrid's Jan Oblak and Liverpool's Alisson to the recognition. Now, the German international conceded just 31 goals in 33 games for Bayern in the Bundesliga and made a number of crucial saves in the Champions League knockout stages to help his side get to the final. But I've seen the better goalkeeper in Atletico Madrid's Jan Oblak. Maybe because of the Champions League, they handed over to...
Like I said, I think it's all branding. It's all about branding because of the truth be said, I have seen more passion, better goalkeeping in Jan Oblak than Manuel Neuer. This is where the award confuses me. And this is where I say branding always makes a difference. You know, technically, Jan Oblak was a better goalkeeper than Manuel Neuer was last season. But branding, the name they has made, Manuel Neuer has made a better name, has become a better brand than Jan Oblak has been, unfortunately. But I think technically, passionately, Jan Oblak should be
the best goalkeeper.
Best goalkeeper for the year, but branding.
Talking about the best goalkeeper now, how can you have Manuel Neuer as the best goalkeeper, and of course there's a nominee in the person of Jan Oblak, and both of them don't even make the FIFA Best Men's World 11. It's really, really outrageous. Of course, for goalkeeper in that one, we have Alisson of Liverpool, who is the #1 goalkeeper. And for the defenders, there's Trent Alexander-Arnold, Virgil van Dijk, and for the red summer signing from Bayern Munich, Thiago Alcantara was also named in the team along with Manchester City's Kevin De Bruyne. And the best men's player winner, Lewandowski, was joined by Messi and Ronaldo in the attack, talking about the FIFA 5th Pro Men's Team of the Year. I mean, how can you be the best goalkeeper and you're not even the #1 goalkeeper for the best team of the year?
Let me first of all state that this will come up on our consequent shows. I'm not a fan of these awards. Any of the awards, Ballon d'Or or FIFA awards, I'm not a fan. Because it's confusing when you say Manuel Neuer is the best goalkeeper and then you have a first 11 best team. And it's not your best goalkeeper, that is not he's not on your team. How do you figure that out? You have a best goalkeeper of that year, of that season, of that year, and then you have a first 11 best team, and it's not your best goalkeeper in that first
team. But you have the best player.
I'm not a fan of this awards, really, because it's very, very confusing. Exactly. You bring a Becker from Liverpool to be in your best 11, and you have a different goalkeeper in your best goalkeeper of the... I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me.
And for Manchester United's Marcus Rashford, who was recognized at the ceremony with a FIFA Foundation Award for his work trying to end child poverty in the UK. And this is what we talk about, doing the job both on and off the football pitch. Marcus Rashford is one man who he stands out for positivity.
This is what gives you the edge over every other person. Marcus Rashford, his mother said she had to let him stay at the Man U hostel because he couldn't afford the tea fare from home to Manchester United training ground. And he got an OBE. He's a chief in his country, you know, big time. And he gets the best FIFA awards for
his charity work.
Charity work. I think it's good for him. The boy has not forgotten where he's coming from. But I also noticed some guy who is Brazilian, who was given an award to, the same award that Rashford got. He walked regularly for a long time before COVID for 12 hours in Brazil to watch his team play.
Wow.
because an award too that day. I think it's fantastic. See, some little things that we do that we think go unnoticed are actually noticed. True. And the man was walking, and he wasn't the one that went to go and report himself and say, I walk. People see him on a constant basis and like, guy, you walk from where to where? And he tells them, and it's like 12 hours to go and watch your team play. And then they was the ones who told the media. The media went to press and did what they had to do, and the world now found out. And the man from nowhere, no money, nothing, was on virtual media and has been awarded by the club in Brazil. FIFA gave him some money too, and we all know some individuals too will do their thing. But the man from nothing, from nobody, has become somebody.
True. From nothing, he actually became somebody. But once again, congratulations to Marcus Rashford for what he's doing on and off the football pitch. And still talking about the young man, he scored a brace yesterday in Manchester United's win over Sheffield United. That game ended 3-2. Great performance from Manchester United, but letting those 2 goals in was not so good. But Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is actually happy with that win. But we would have listened to Solskjaer, but let's quickly run through the games that were going down this weekend.